Newman City Council regular meeting, May 2001. Can we rise and have the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation by... okay, yeah, good. The Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we bow our heads in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you guide us in our decision-making process, that we represent the people of this wonderful city. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Tim. Can we have a roll call, please?
Present.
Present. Present. Present.
Present. Item number 5 is ceremonial matters, proclamation for National Tourism Week. You say that they already have a copy of this, of the county? Okay. This is a proclamation of the mayor of the city of Newman, whereas May 6th through May 12th is National Tourism Week, and May 9th designated as Tourism Awareness Day, and the governor has declared the month of May as Tourism Month, and whereas the county's potential for attracting tourists is considerable due to its location, market base, open space, and the valley's population growth, which is projected to double in the next 20 years, and whereas the county's market base is several million people whose travel distance to the county is 2 hours or less, and whereas within 100-mile radius of the county live 9 million people, and whereas there are 3.6 million people visiting Stanislaus County annually with a direct expenditure over 300 million annually, and whereas tourism is an exporting industry that brings new money into the local economy and builds wealth, and whereas tourism helps to promote our products, increases awareness of our natural resources and our contribution to the world economy, and whereas travel and tourism is the world's #1 industry and is expected to double in the next 10 years, and whereas California's travel and tourism industry generates $64.8 billion annually, and whereas in the United States, tourism is the 3rd largest industry and California leads all other states in tourism spending. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Newman joins with others across the country to proclaim our support for National Tourism Week and encourage the community to observe the week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities to increase awareness of our great country.
Could you repeat that?
No. Did you understand it all?
No.
Okay. Communications from staff.
We have a couple of items. Ernie, first.
Okay.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I just have a brief informational item. The demolition and cleanup project for 1345 N Street has been completed. The last of that contaminated soil has been treated and removed. So all we need to do now is just pay the bill.
Thank you.
Ernie, before you leave, I had something that was brought to my attention by a person of my citizenship.
Sure.
And it's regarding the water pressure. Could you check into the status of our water pressure? I've noticed sometimes at home where it goes down. They just kind of asked me that question regarding our water tables. And I know you might not have that on the top of your head, but if you could just check into that for me.
Yes, I do have something that I can tell you about the water pressure that happened early Monday morning. What happened is when I got to my office, I noticed that the computer showed that all 3 wells were operating and that they were pumping, and I looked at that and I says the level in the water tank was slowly going down. So I thought, well, gee, there's no fire or anything. Something must be wrong with this. So upon checking all the other screens, I found that I had an application error on it, so I had to reboot the computer. When I did, I found that well 6 and 5 had shut down, had lost communication, and the screen just showed that they were running. So I went over and I reset 5 and 6. Was able to bring the water pressure right back up, and I believe that may have been the cause when we did have the pressure go down to about 40 pounds.
Okay.
But it's been running fine since.
Ernie, what do you normally maintain the pressure at?
We maintained the pressure about 55 pounds. And that's what the computer system tends to keep it at that level within 2 or 3 pounds of that desired pressure.
Okay, thanks, Ernie.
Thank you, Ernie.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I have just a brief announcement I'd like to make out to the public, pretty much, just inform the council. As you know, the Stanislaus County Animal Control takes care of the licensing within our city, and they are having a rabies and licensing clinic Saturday, May 19th, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Pioneer Park. And only we said that all dogs must be on a leash and cats must be in a carrier. I guess that's to control, have an orderly clinic. If any kind of questions on that, I'll advise you, but so far, this is the second one that we've had this year. You were requesting to have at least 2, so we had one earlier in the year, and this is our second. So,
Do we get any figures on how many animals are actually brought to these things, or?
I haven't inquired yet to
It'd be
find
kind of
out.
nice just to see how worthwhile they are.
Okay.
Okay.
But one of the things we were looking at was we were mainly midweek, so now we're moving it on to a weekend, so hopefully we'll get commuters and some other people to be able to
Okay.
participate.
Thank you. Items from, item number 7, items from the public, non-agenda items. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in the meetings, it would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone may be heard. Matters under the jurisdiction of the council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed to the general public at this time. However, California law prohibits the council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it's determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Any non-agenda items? Items from public agenda items. Any member of the audience desiring to address the council on a matter on the agenda, please raise your hand or step to the podium at the time the item is announced by the mayor. In order that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak, any person addressing the council will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes unless the mayor grants a longer period of time. And when you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. Item number 8, public hearings. This is item 8A, resolution number 2001, next number, a resolution declaring the existence of public nuisance under the ordinance number 95-4. Ernie?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is a code enforcement issue. Property owners were advised of the need to notice to abate the public nuisance on their property, mostly weeds. Most everybody complied with the exception of the 4 property owners which are on the list that I handed out to you prior to the start of tonight's meeting. And staff recommendation is for council to declare these a public nuisance and require abatement thereof. And this public hearing is their opportunity for the property owners to protest the proposed action.
Do we have any of the property owners here? Bob?
I had a question in reference to number 3. I don't know if we say who it is. Well,
Public information.
okay, it's West Side Marketplace. I had a conversation with the Nob Hill manager, and there's some confusion as to who's responsible to clean up that area, be it the property owner or the people that are leasing those different businesses. So until that gets clarified, I don't think that area is going to be cleaned up on a regular basis, and it looks terrible.
Yes, it does.
And it's really an eyesore for our town. And what I'm saying is, we have to notify whoever the property owners, find out who is legally responsible for maintaining that area and keeping it clean. Now, there's, as I say, I think there's some confusion. And I know it says the property owner here, but I'm just wondering if the people that have leased those businesses down there, do they have some liability too?
Do you want to explain, Ernie? Do you want me to, or what we know?
If you could, well, here's what my input is. When we send notices to the property owners, we'll send a copy to the renter and we'll send one to the property owner. But when we do take the action and actually go in there and clean it up, we look to the property owner as being the person that's liable for the cleanup costs.
Okay.
Well, one of the things I found when I was down there, especially by Burger King, there was just garbage all over the place. And I mentioned it to the Nob Hill manager, and he said, well, it wasn't really their responsibility to clean up that area. But I went back about an hour later and it was cleaned up. So some action was taken, but they're only giving themselves a black eye when they don't take care of that place.
Yeah. What I found out, just for information, and we're working on trying to get this resolved, is Westside Marketplace is a group that is set up that is the owner of the property. The others, Nob Hill and the others, lease from them. And we recently took action and we're trying to get it resolved because the owners of Westside Marketplace came in and requested, because they were behind on their water bill for the landscaping portion only. And they requested that we proportion the bill out to the different users, Burger King, Rite Aid, Nob Hill. We told them that we were not able to do that because we have to bill to the meter. By our ordinance, we're required to do that. The owners have said that because what has been happening, I guess, is the subleasees are not paying the bill that is sent to them by Westside Marketplace, and therefore Westside Marketplace is saying we're not going to pay it because they're not paying us, and that's why they try to get them to bill the individual subleasees. But according to our ordinance, we cannot do that, and therefore now their water has been shut off also to the landscaping. Now Burger King has theirs is somewhat separate, just for their grounds and what they have, their lawn area and stuff around there. That's separate. That is still on. That's still working. But the islands in between the parking areas and et cetera have been turned off, and we're working with the Westside Marketplace owners to try and get it settled. But we didn't have any choice because they were not paying the bill. We followed through and turned off their water, but we are trying to get that resolved.
The owners are also the property managers?
I believe so.
Okay, because most of the shopping areas I've seen have a property management group that is in charge of all of the landscaping and everything, so separately
Yes.
from the lessees. So, okay, so we are going in the right direction there then, right?
I believe so.
Okay. All right, so any other questions for Ernie? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt resolution.
Just 1 minute, Tim. We probably need to open and close the public hearing just to
Okay.
allow the input.
Yeah, okay. I never thought about that.
That's okay.
We'll open the public hearing. Anyone has any comments on it? See any? Don't hear any? Close the public hearing now. Jim?
I'd like to move that we adopt resolution number, I believe it should be stricken from 00 to 01, since this is 2001, is that correct?
It is resolution number 2001.
Okay.
Next number.
Next to number.
Yeah.
Declaring the existence of a public nuisance under the ordinance number 95-4 with the said listed properties.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 9, consent calendar. Item 9A, approval of warrants. Item 9B, approval of minutes of April 24th, 2001 regular meeting.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Item number 10, regular business. Item 10A, approve construction draw request of $144,109.80 from DH Ways of Construction Incorporated for completion of a streetscape storm drain project. Cleve, you want to?
You want me to do that, Ernie? This is just a simple item. This is pretty much completion of the downtown streetscape storm drain project. As you can see, the reason we're bringing this to you in this way is because there are 2 change orders that were required. The first was due to some unexpected pipes that we ran into down one of the streets, required us to add 2 additional manholes in order to get around those. The other one is simply that the hookup in the alley was not quite where we expected it to be and had to add some additional pipe to get that through. As is mentioned in here, we are holding back the required retention for 30 days. Once that is finished, we will bring the resolution for a notice of completion, and that will be released.
I'd like to commend Ernie Garza for the fine job that he did in overseeing the project for the city. Thanks, Ernie.
Thank you, Ernie. Anyone have any questions for Cleve or Ernie on this? Okay, some direction on this?
I move that we approve construction draw request of $144,109.80 from D.H. Williams Construction, Inc. for completion of streetscape storm drain project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Item 10B, authorized payment of $5,369 to California Northern Railroad for increased cost at Inyo Crossing.
I move that we authorize payment of $5,369 to California Northern Railroad for increased costs at Inyo Crossing.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. I like the letter that the gentleman from California Northern sent. Do we want to relocate any more crossings? Item 10C, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Newman establishing a voluntary contribution checkoff program.
As I mentioned in the report, this item was placed on the agenda at the request of Councilmember Applegate. I think the report is fairly clear. This simply allows us to make voluntary deductions from council members' salary if they would like to do so for various contributions to different associations or nonprofit associations, whatever they'd like to do. Tom, if you'd like to comment, any other comments you'd like to add to that?
No, not really.
This is something that has been done. This just sort of makes it official, right?
Right.
Right, it's,
Right.
yeah, it came from the Action for Better Cities.
Right, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
with that, Mr. Mayor, I would move that we adopt resolution number 2001 next to number, establishing a voluntary contribution checkoff program.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item 10D, review and provide direction on request from Newman Historical Society to display antique farm equipment at entrances to the city.
Mayor and council, you have my report. I didn't provide a lot of information. This was brought to me by the Newman Historical Society, and basically what I told Tom Powell when he came to me, I said, well, let's just bring it up as an informational item first, run it by the council. I said I don't really have staff didn't really have a strong recommendation on it right now, but run it by them and get some input, see if the council wants to pursue it any further. So, Tom, if you want to add some input, kind of explain what your ideas are. You have his letter that he provided, and then we can go from there on it.
My name is Tom Powell, 2043 Patrick, here in Newman. We were at a board of directors meeting for the Historical Society, and one of our major discussions every time we get there is lack of room. It's lack of room inside the building, lack of room outside the building, and everything. Somewhere in the conversation, the discussion about the antique equipment in the backyard come up as to being decorated at the entrance of the city and to the, well, both entrances. Neither is an entrance and neither is an exit. So, but anyway, and we thought, well, maybe we'd check with Cleve and see how it was, and we didn't expect this to come up this quick. I was playing around with a computer, and these will give a little bit of an idea of what's kind of going on, but there's a lot of equipment in the backyard that, of the museum that we could do, and those are very poor quality of prints, but that we could, and we've, you know, of course the liability comes up, and we said, well, you know, you can go to Casa de Fruta and a lot of different places, and they have farm equipment that's being displayed all the time, and I've never seen anybody playing on it or getting hurt, you know, so it apparently does not create a liability problem to those people. I don't know which items would be the best to do. The only warning that I was given was that make sure that you weld the seats on or something, because people will steal them. So we're just kind of, if there's any questions or anything, I'd be happy to answer them as much as I can.
I just wanted to state, Tom, I spoke with you earlier on the phone. I made it a point to go over to the museum and was speaking with Irma and took a look at the equipment, which I've seen on several other occasions, but I took a closer look. One of the questions that I might have had in consideration of your request would be, would there be any enhancement to some of that equipment? I mean, some of the tires are worn off of it, and would you be trying to do anything to it to, you know, enhance it to the extent that would it being under this kind of consideration that it would be an enhancement rather?
There's a lot of different schools of thought on that. Some people, it's just like any antique they have. They warn you, don't clean it up, don't you know. So that's kind of a debatable situation. What we would like to do with some of the equipment is make sure that the tires are full of air so they're
Right.
round. We'd like to set them up on some kind of stand so that the tires will stay round and that kind of thing. As far as painting and cleaning up in that respect, I don't know. Those are things that are up for, you know, everybody's input. They're sitting back there now just deteriorating because there's really no place that we can move them around. We tried to get them in line, as best that we could so that you can get around there, but some of them are so close together that you really can't walk between them comfortably without doing anything. There's some that are just falling apart. Some of them, if you did anything to enhance them, that you would really ruin what they are. One of the things that I'm talking about is the wagon that's over by the tractor. If you saw there's two axles with a board between them broken. And what that was, at one time they put a big beam between them. They put the axles whatever length that they were hauling, the distance would be that far. And if we put a new board in there, it just wouldn't look right. So those are a few of the things to consider. But other than that, I don't really know just exactly what we do, depending on which pieces of equipment we take out and how we can set them up on a display basis.
The one that I noticed had like a barrel on the rear of it. Is that the water
That was a spray race.
spray ray?
Yeah.
Okay.
It had a pump of some sort, and somebody go along spraying weeds and so forth with it.
But I know it just had a large size barrel.
It
that
looks
was
like
on
an
the rear
old
of it.
barrel, yeah. But there are a lot of ways that you could arrange displays on both ends. The arrangements at the ends are different. This one down here, you've got just one big area where out at this end, there's several small places that you could put things without doing it. One of the questions would be if there would be any change to the city's maintenance. Not really, because the city maintains the backyard where it is now. So that they would have, and they maintain the ends as far as killing weeds and so forth. So there shouldn't be any expense to that at all. Any other questions?
I think it's a fabulous idea.
Well, thank you.
I like the hay baler in the one picture.
Yeah, well, that's supposed to be the first hay baler, one of the first hay balers in this area. The Herger brothers used that in 42, 43, somewhere back in there.
I think it's a good idea.
Do we have any other comments from the council?
Yeah, I would think that these are some of the items that would represent what's taken place in our community, and I think a lot of people would like to see them out there. So I think that I wouldn't want to see too many out there. I'd like to see it so it has a good appearance, Yeah. But so I would be in favor of something like this.
Just a couple of comments, if I could, Mayor, that we had talked about on a staff level since Tom brought this up, since you brought it to us. We've been thinking about it a little bit. One thing is that we would want to make sure, and I realize this is just a beginning, that it's done in a way that it clearly is shown as a display rather than doesn't begin to look like, oops, somebody lost something off the back of their trailer as they were driving by.
Right.
So, we talked about various things. Perhaps we could require a concrete slab poured that you set it on so that it's clearly, that keeps the weeds away from it and things like that. And then just the appearance, as Councilmember Parker brought up, what we can do there to make sure that it's clear that it is really a display that's being done there, and then that, like I say, that's done in a way so that mostly on the north end, about all we have to do is mow, and if it's set up right, so that all we continue to do is mow, and we're not worrying about weeding underneath some of this equipment and stuff like that, if that can be done in the right way. Those were the things that staff thought about. And like I say, I think it can look good if it's done in the right way, so that it's clearly that it's a display and not something that's just left there. So
I think more, Tom, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that if you're going to do it, that I'd rather see it cleaned up and painted and looking nice, and not just a piece of junk sitting there. Because, you know, right, yeah, some of that stuff can really look bad, but I'd like to see them cleaned up.
Yeah, I just don't think it fits in there. I'd like to see us look into maybe another area. I realize how crowded you are back there, and if we could find some other area where we could move some of the stuff there. But as to, particularly on the north end, on the south end, it's kind of bare back there anyway, and it might not be too bad looking there. But on the north end, I just think that the aesthetics just aren't right for that. We're not going any place with this anyway, as far as, you know, making decision tonight. It's just some more things to think about. So, but we ought to pursue it, I think, as far as finding another place to store more of it, and or as Tom says, as Tom Applegate says, to restore it, paint it up, and as Tom Powell says, well, that takes a lot away from it, which it does. So I think we ought to kind of think about this a little bit.
Well, when you look at it in that respect, it's still old equipment. I mean, the new stuff that's out there doesn't look anything like that. I don't think if you paint it, it's going to take away from it, because it's still old piece of equipment. It's different. It looks different. It doesn't look like the new stuff that we have now. So everybody will know that it's old, even though it looks better.
And it will still continue to
Right.
deteriorate out there,
Oh,
as
yeah.
well as back here. There was some talk a while back of making a cover for behind the museum there to cover, but right now it just isn't financially feasible. But that's probably the ultimate idea in the future, to keep it from really deteriorating, is to cover it somehow.
Well, I kind of lean in the same, in the comments of the mayor, and the way of thinking that he sees it.
So
would you like the Historical Society to prepare a more formal proposal of maybe showing some pictures, better pictures of, you know, how they might propose to do it, and then bring it back for some actual action by council, whether it be on the south end, the north end, or maybe we do find another location?
I would suggest for staff to take a look into not just the egress, which are on both ends of the city, but some additional areas where, because for what I'm getting from Tom is that this area is crowded, and this is one suggestion that came up in their meeting. You were brainstorming, somebody said, hey, well, maybe we can use the interests of the city. Well, I would continue and take that a little step further. Like the mayor said, well, perhaps maybe with the south end, because that area is so open, but maybe look into some other additional area, just as we've been discussing, to where it's an enhancement and it doesn't take away. Because I think that's one of the primary concerns, are the aesthetics, not the equipment itself. The historical facts about the equipment is said with the equipment, but the aesthetics of how it would blend in, I think is, if I may have a general consensus, is what we're looking at in terms of what Mr. Mayor and my colleague here, Tom, is speaking of.
Yeah, proper signage, you know, saying how old it, what date it is, and what it was used for.
Well, it'd be kind of hard to read the signage driving by, so that means that they'd have to stop and pull into the area to read it. And on the south end, it would be almost, I don't know whether they would do it or
there's
not.
not much place to go in there.
No, but you
Yeah.
can put 1914 hay baler.
Yeah,
That's
you can
not
make
how
them
big
large
would you
enough
have to
letters,
print
if
it?
that's simple, you know.
About like
So,
this. You can read it.
do we agree to let our city manager go ahead and go further with this and bring it back for direction?
Yeah.
Sure.
Paul Wallace, Chairman of the Newman Chamber of Commerce. We've been approached by Rotary, who is developing a proposal for an archway over those city signs. They've asked us for our approval to bring you a request to use business tax dollars to put an archway that would hold the service clubs and churches, like you see entering most cities. And as you guys consider the aesthetics, maybe those should be combined. Thank you.
That's another thing too that doesn't really fit in with the way it's out there now, so that's something else we're going to have to discuss.
Well, this is
Tom?
something that we really, I mean, like Cleve said, we just come in one day and it says, well, you know, and so this is, what we're doing is just throwing it out on the table
Right.
to give everybody the opportunity to think about it and see what it's going to do. We didn't have any intentions of doing it very soon. We have other projects in the works right now, and we're kind of worried about those. But this was just one of the things that came up, like he says, in a brainstorming session that we had.
Okay.
So,
So we'll just we'll pursue it and see
Good.
what happens here, okay?
thank you.
Thank you very
I
much.
I would comment, Mr. Mayor, off that tail end of what Tom was saying in terms of direction of staff, not looking so quickly into a formal action that comes back to agenda in the action form, but perhaps in the furtherance of a staff report to give us some semblance of some differentiating ideas. And so just off the tail end of what Tom was saying, that would be my suggestion.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Anything else on this? Okay. Item 10E, appoint replacement for Architectural Review Committee and consider additional positions. Dave, you wanna-
Attached, you have a letter from Steve Sorensen, who is president of Precision Inspection. In the past, we have had a position on the Architectural Review Committee, which is the official representative is called the professional representative. Kelly Hislop, who was previously president of Precision Inspection, has filled that position. He has stated that he is no longer able to serve. And Steve Sorensen has requested that we consider Tim Overgaw, who is currently, Overgaw, I guess how you pronounce his name, excuse me, is currently a vice president with Precision Inspection, be appointed to serve on that committee. In speaking with Bob Borchard, our planning director, who is the staff person to that committee, he mentioned that he felt it was very important to have a member of the building department on the committee in order to make sure that how aesthetics fit in with the code requirements and et cetera. So he was requesting that that Mr. Overgaw be appointed to fill that position, which is vacated by Kelly Hislop. In addition, as you recall, after our last meeting when we appointed Jim Silvera to the committee, there was some discussion about possibly, and Mr. Silvera actually brought it up, that perhaps we add excuse me, additional positions in order that perhaps Mr. Pfluger, who submitted an application and was not appointed to the committee, might have an opportunity to serve. I brought up some issues here. One of them is, as you know, sometimes we have a hard time filling these committees, and if we appoint additional positions, we do have people now, but would we always have in the future? You know, as well as the Recreation Commission and Planning Commission, quite often we have a difficult time finding people to serve. And so that's one of the concerns. I also brought up the issue that most common on committees and commissions, you try to have an odd number of people so that you avoid a tie vote. I don't think that's a real big issue on this Architectural Review Committee because it's an advisory committee. Well, not completely. They do approve architectural plans that are submitted to them, but there is the potential that there could be a tie vote on there, and if you put in an even number, that issue comes up. With an odd number, that's avoided. So,
Which means you'd have to take it up to 7, and my feeling is, and on that committee, and I was on it for a couple of years, you get too many people in there and it just dilutes it. I don't feel that, I feel that 7 would be too many people to be on a committee.
Okay, we have actually two parts to this. Number one is to appoint a replacement for Kelly Hislop as Tim Overgaw. Overgaw? Okay.
Overgaw.
A-A-W, okay. To serve on there. Can we break this down into two separate
Sure.
votes on this?
Yeah.
Is that agreeable to everyone?
Well, I move that we appoint Tim Obergal as the professional representative to the Architectural Review Committee.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. The second part of it is to add additional member to the committee. Again, anyone have any comments on that? Tom had one there. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate we have a person that's this well qualified and has come forward and from our community. I think we should appoint him, and I'm not concerned about if there's going to be 6, and there may be a possible. I'd rather take that chance because here's a person that's well qualified, can help this community, and I'd like to see him appointed.
But we have such a large turnover normally in our commissions, and I'd like to see him kept in the background, like on the planning commission. Since I was on there, I think we've had an entire new planning commission, and the turnover is great, and we got a nice resource sitting here that we can use in the future.
Any other comments? Can we have some direction on this?
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we do not consider adding a position to the Architectural Review Committee.
Second.
All in favor of not appointing another person to it?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed.
Passes 3-2. Item 10F, discussion of letter received by Torina Carter regarding opening of restrooms in parks.
Mayor and council, I'll comment just quickly while Trina's coming up. As far as opening of the restrooms, this has been resolved. They are now open at 7 a.m. when our crews come in, and they are being locked by dusk at dusk by our police department. One point that was already made to me, because we have started this on one day on Sunday, there was quite a mess left, including clogged toilets and etc. at Barrington Park. So my only request is that we will monitor this for 30 days, and going back and reviewing the letter that happened back in, or the action that was taken back in 1996, that was what was supposed to be done. I'm not sure if a report ever came back to the council at that time after the 30 days. So we would like to monitor that and just bring back to the council, some of the problems that may come up so that we can be aware of those, and then we can pursue it further from there. So that's what I'm requesting to do. So.
Ms. Carter, would you like to make some additional comments on that?
Yes. I live at 1138 Balsam Drive, Torina Carter, as he already stated. My main concern about coming tonight, Cleve has resolved the problem temporarily, but I think that the situation needs to have some kind of permanency, a decision that's going to be held year after year. I understand that there is some potential problems in keeping the restrooms open. However, they're, under my understanding, they're a public facility. It's a public park, and there are children that frequently visit this park as well as parents. And since Newman is a very small place, we don't have a lot of places to take our children to enjoy outdoor activities. Parks are extremely important in this community. Extremely important for our children to be able to have facilities to use the restroom. When those facilities are being locked during prime hours, the children are having to use the restroom in public. The little boys peeing on the fences, little girls having to view this. I think it's absolutely ludicrous. 1996, when this was brought up, it was a temporary situation. Why was it not then rediscussed? If it was, what was the situation at that particular time? It seems to me that the ball was dropped, and I don't want to see that happen again. I think it's a situation that needs to be addressed, and we are a community from time and time again, I've heard, that prides ourselves on community values, and by not offering these public facilities, okay, I'm not asking for a new bathroom, I'm asking for the bathrooms to be kept open during prime times. It just doesn't seem right to me. And I've talked to several people in the community. Several people have been very concerned about not having the use of these facilities. And with the spring, summer coming, I think that maybe my hope would be that you gentlemen would consider doing some schedules, maybe on the basis of the maybe 9 to dusk during summer seasons, and then during winter doing a lighter, a schedule maybe from till 5 o'clock, opposed to dusk, or even earlier, a little earlier. Public park over here downtown, 3 o'clock is on the note that I was sent, is when the public facility is closed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when children are getting home, doing their homework. Generally, they come out after 3 o'clock. There's a potty over there, and I just would think that there would be a little more leeway there to have the facilities even open till 5 o'clock would be even more suitable. So I'm basically hoping that the council will consider this request, and if I need to go out into the community and walk the community and get signatures, I'm more than willing to do that for the council, or anything else that might help encourage the council to make a reasonable decision on this.
Just quickly, if I can comment, Trina, that's the current situation, but we have changed that at the main park so that they are open now and being locked at dusk for both that
both
park.
parks?
Yeah, both parks now.
Okay.
So just for your information.
Thank you. Yeah, one of the reasons for me coming is I was running into a brick wall when I was discussing this, so that's the other reason of me bringing this to your attention, and I'm hoping, again, that if something is put on the books, that next year I don't have to come, or the year after, or that another citizen, for that matter, doesn't have to come and waste your valuable time as well as theirs.
Thank you. It's a point well taken. Our main concern is to be sure that they aren't vandalized. The restrooms aren't vandalized, or there will be no restrooms for anyone at any time. So I think that what Cleve has said, that we will, we have them to your satisfaction right now from 7 to dusk, whatever, and all the parks, and we'll bring this back at one of our June meetings. Is that good?
We'll probably try to do the second meeting in June. That's a little over 30 days. That'll give us time to evaluate it.
We'll get a report from the police department as to what, and the public works, as to what vandalization has happened. If it looks good, then we'll keep it up and go along with it. Otherwise, we'll have to take another look at it. But right now, we're going to try and do the best we can with it.
Okay, my question is, how were the facilities funded originally? When these
Parks and-
facilities were built, how were
Parks
they
and
funded?
Recreation or general, well, in
By
Solomonville, it
public
could've been
funds or
general
private
fund.
funds?
I believe that Barrington somewhat was done by some of the baseball board, if I recall correctly. So I guess you would consider that a nonprofit organization. I mean, they weren't a formal nonprofit even, but so it was the baseball board, I believe, that built the Barrington Snack Shack. The ones in the main park, I'm assuming, were done with public funds. That was many years ago when those were built. I'm not sure, but.
Well, one of the concerns I have is when we talk about vandalism, knowing that first it did really occur, that's one concern I have. Second, how do other cities, other communities that I frequently visit have restroom facilities available during daylight time? So I understand your concern, Mayor. I understand Cleve's concern. But again, it almost seems as though it's on a contingency that is very uncontrollable, obviously by me, obviously by you, our police department, and yet still puts our public in jeopardy of not being able to use these facilities when they need to.
Well, the mayor said that if they go in and destroy them, you're not going to have any at all.
Right, and
So-
I've been lately the last month that they are open during baseball, and I've not seen any inappropriate use of them.
I think Ernie could probably tell us some of the horror stories that have gone on in those restrooms.
recently.
But the idea is, we have Public Works employees available Monday through Friday, and they kind of keep an eye on the restrooms. On the weekends, we don't have them available, and that's when usually most of the problems happen.
Okay.
And so, like I say, we're going to do the best we can, and if it looks like we can control the vandalism, then we'll definitely keep them open from dawn to dusk.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Sure.
I'd just like to allude to the fact that I've been long-term friends with Tarina, and she posed this question to me initially, and I'd like to commend her for taking the proper steps to having it addressed properly. And I think we've met with Cleveland report and the fact that in 1996 this issue had been brought up, so this is not the first time. I'm certain that you will be diligent in your efforts to see that the city is doing its part to take a look into the matter and satisfy the restroom use, because that's what we're looking at. As far as what's being implied about the problems that we may or may not incur, I think this city and the police department does a pretty decent job with vandalism in this city, and that's based on experiences that I've seen in a multitude of cities as well. When you look at the graffiti problems, when you look at the problems with a semblance of gangs, not to say that we don't have some youth problems in that term, but on a greater scale. And so when you allude to other cities, then you have to put that within a scale. And when I say a scale, you got to compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges. We're a city now of a little over 7,000. We've increased some 30-odd% in the last decade with the last census. So with that, you're going to have a greater population, a greater use of the parks, and we're trying to meet that with staffing. And so that's partly of what you're hearing to accommodate the request is some of the staffing issues. And I think the 30-day review will give us the munition we need to say we can handle this in a proper fashion without the incurrence of some of our concerns that would be the vandalism per se. And you're absolutely right. And my colleague here alluded to Ernie being able to tell us some of the horror stories. It would be my hope that we can make use of it, that the public will retain a positive view, that the vandalism will not occur, and that some of that can be policed not by just our police department, but by the citizens. So in other words, the adults and some of the youth and the children can police themselves to say, we have the use of these facilities, but we don't want to destroy our own facilities. And so with that, that would be the message that I would like to convey, is that, well, we're going to be able to try to meet these type of needs. However, we're always going to be held to the fact that while we're meeting these needs, if things become destroyed, then we have to take the appropriate action within our policy and our staffing issues.
I understand that. I just don't think that the community, the children, should be held at penalty for a situation that first hasn't occurred. And if it does occur, it's still something I believe that can be resolved in a different way, opposed to locking the facilities back up. That's basically where I'm coming from. And the reason why I did bring up other areas that I have visited and comparing apples with apples is that they are bigger communities, and they do handle this problem, obviously, and they do have the restrooms held open. Okay? And I don't feel that this is something that Newman can't handle. Newman is a smaller community than, say, Turlock. Newman is a smaller community than Modesto. I've been to several parks in both communities, and the main park in Turlock particularly, the bathrooms are always held open. Now, I did not at all make a suggestion a 24-hour period, which was on that little notice. I don't even know why that was there. I am just talking about some real normal hours, daylight hours, that the facility is held open. And I would like to ask the council how you would like me to handle this in a month from now. Should I come back in a month? Should I rewrite? Should I come with signatures? How would you like me to handle this?
Well, can I comment? I agree with you 100%. I think if we have public parks, we should have restrooms. And I think those restrooms should be available. I think it's not unreasonable to think they should be open at 7 o'clock morning till dusk.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's reasonable. Why have the park if you're not going to have the restrooms? They're there. What are they for? And I know there's a chance of having vandalism. It's going to occur. But we have to have those restrooms open.
Thank you.
There's nothing worse than a young child out there playing and he has to use a restroom and it's not open. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Right.
Why even construct it if we're not going to leave it open?
Right. And we're going to have new parks built, I understand. And what are you going to do with the new parks, you know?
I couldn't agree more, and I think the restrooms should be open, and we should find a way to keep them open.
Thank you, sir.
Anyway, I don't know what happened. I'm just looking here at this 1996 action, which just about, it was May 14th, actually, very close to the anniversary of that. And they agreed to a trial period of 30 days. I don't know what happened after the 30 days, but I know that at our second meeting in June, we will have a decision on what we're going to do. So if you'd like to come back, we'd be glad to have you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you
Mayor.
very much.
Can I report just quickly on what the plan is, so that we don't get out of order here? We are also taking this to the Parks and Recreation Commission, which should actually advise you on that issue. Trina, this is on the agenda Thursday night. I have to apologize. I think the agenda was set out, the date was wrong on that.
Yes, it was.
It is Thursday night. I apologize for
Yes.
that. But anyway, so that will be before them. We will discuss the same issue. What I'd like to do then is have that 30-day period, take it back to the Parks and Recreation Commission also at their meeting, which will be on June 14th, and then I can bring it to the City Council on June 26th with their recommendation, so that going through the proper channels and allowing the Parks and Recreation Commission to consider that issue and look at it. So if
Yes.
that...
Yeah, and I am
and-
going to do some community walking and getting some signatures so that you can understand that this is not just my complaint, that this is more of a community complaint and a need that needs to be considered. So I'm going to go ahead and go forward in doing that for you
That's
also.
fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10G, review status of skate park construction. I'd ask that we have an update on this, and whatever has to be done, get it done. So Cleve, do you have any things
I
since
don't,
talked to you last
unfortunately, I
time?
don't have any solid news. The only reason that I have delayed is I've been attempting to get contractors, a couple of contractors and businesses I'm working with, to actually donate the construction of the concrete pad site. I understand the importance of this, and therefore I'm going to forego those. I made one last effort yesterday and today to make some contacts that might work. That's not happening, so I will proceed under the normal method now to get that concrete pad built, and I will work with the company that I've been working with on the structures to begin the process of getting those built also.
Did you read the fire line today?
I did.
They said that they offered all their help and everything, but have they come forward and said,
They have. I have names of people. They're offering to volunteer if there's a time when we are actually out there preparing the ground and preparing forms, and we have used that. I have some names that I can
Oh, good.
contact, and I don't doubt that they are willing to come forward, and I will use them. I'm sure at a certain time we can make use of those
Good.
volunteers. Well, I say the only reason for the delay was my attempts to save some costs so that perhaps we could do a few more things as far as structures, but we'll move forward with it now.
Okay, Cleve, with that, moving forward, give us a time destination.
I hope to be able to begin construction on the pad site somewhere around the first part of June.
And when are we hoping to have it completed?
I have got to check back with the company as far as when they will be able to have the actual structures done, and I will provide that at your next meeting, because I have not been able to get them to get back in touch with me yet.
And just confirm, we've appropriated approximately $35, almost $40,000.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, so we will expect to see a skate park there hopefully by the end of June.
Soon.
Well, we've been saying soon, nothing happens, so.
Okay.
But it's,
Mayor?
yes. Oh, yes, ma'am. Go ahead. If you want, would you go up there, please, Mr. Carter?
Just out of curiosity, that skate park, is it going to have restrooms?
It will be over, you know where the swimming pool is?
Mm-hmm.
Behind the swimming pool, where there's some playground equipment in there now that we're moving a little bit. And the restrooms at the youth center that the baseball teams use will be available for that.
During the park hours?
Actually, that's there are the restrooms directly on the back side of in Lions Park, directly on the back side of the pool, that we will make available during that time. Those restrooms are what are being used currently for baseball. They are not open all the time, and that is due to they are in a even worse shape than any of them. For instance, we've spent probably, I don't know what the cost is, Ernie, you could probably find out, but we had to completely remove the toilets and pull everything from McDonald's toys to chunks of wood to tennis balls out of those toilets to repair them.
But they'll be made available for that park.
We will look into that, yeah, at that
Well,
time, yeah.
what about the new restrooms that are being?
That's a possibility that those could be used also,
Okay.
once those are completed, that are being built on the.
That's the remodeling of the youth center.
Because
Correct.
We just recently
We-
appropriated
Thank you.
and approved that money.
I think we had decided the skate park was going to be a virtually dusk to dawn type thing
Mhm.
too, so.
Daylight hours, yeah.
Daylight hours, yeah, so that would be.
One last question on the issue of the skateboard park. Is staff preparing, along with the construction efforts, semblance of those rules that we're going to
Sure.
want to have as an ordinance to?
We've
or just
reviewed those
compare?
briefly, and yeah, we'll have all that ready to go, sure.
And when we get this skate park,
We should have a grand opening.
well, that, yeah, I agree, it's taken long. But I think that we ought to vigorously enforce the no skateboards, rollerblades, anything downtown area. It's really getting out of hand down there. And right now, you really can't say too much, there's no place else for them to go, but if they do have a skate park, well, then I think that they should use it, so. Okay, item number 11, items from the city manager.
Just a couple of items. First one, as the council probably knows, they approved and I went out to recruit for a management assistant to assist me in some duties. And unfortunately, the recruitment was not very successful. I did not get any qualified applicants. I got about a half a dozen, all but 2 of those canceled when we got down to the interviews. So temporarily, we're taking back and looking at that as part of the budget process. We'll review that. On a temporary basis, though, I have asked Bob Borchard, our planning director, to assist me in some of the areas of overseeing some of the engineering duties with final maps and some of the subdivisions that we've recently approved. And then in the area of recreation, I have hired a person on a temporary basis as a contract employee to assist us in the recreation duties over the summer. So that will relieve some of the time while we step back and I take a look at this and come back with a recommendation on what we do with the position. So.
Could you bring us current on the downtown streetscape?
Yes, on the downtown streetscape, we have somewhat of a change. As you know, we had a request for information from the contractor which needed answers done, and there were some corrections based on those RFIs that needed to be done to the plans. We sent those to Precision Inspection, who has the contract to do the plans and needed to do the changes. Because of some of the things that happened with the former engineer who did those plans, they have now hired Bill Henry, who was our former city engineer, who will be making all the changes and answering those RFIs and working with us. Public Works Director Ernie Garza and I spent about 2 or 3 hours with him today, getting all up to speed. He has reviewed the plans in the past. He is up to speed. By the end of this week, he hopes to have all of the answers done and the corrections ready to go on that were on the RFIs. We are looking at that. I'm going to coordinate with him a little bit and hopefully set up a meeting with business owners mid next week. We're working with the contractor right now on trying to get a schedule together that we can take to them so that when we go to that meeting, we will have the schedule to kind of show where we will be starting and what we plan to do there. So what I have told the business owners and I'm holding to right now is that we will not start the project until we have had that, until 2 weeks after that meeting, which we have, and we show them a schedule so that you have at least 2 weeks notice before we start construction so that they can make plans.
Have you heard whether or not that there's going to be a fall festival this year?
I have not.
Okay.
I think, when is their meeting?
Tomorrow night, 6:30 at Madison Newspapers.
Okay.
You need to come up.
Mary Moore, 1442 Q Street. I was wondering, when this project starts, Cleve, do you have any idea when it will be completed? I was going to get together with the band teacher. She wanted to do the band review in October.
I talked to her today. It will be completed by that date. I believe it's October 27th is the date that she told me. We have a 5-month allowable time in the contract, but our goal is still to have this done by Labor Day, and we're going to push for that.
That's all I just wanted to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So theoretically, we may get to start on this about the 1st of...
That's what we're looking for, probably about the 1st of
rather?
June. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have. Oh, the other thing I wanted, there's been a lot of questions and people asking about the Tartaric hearing that was scheduled for May 2nd. That was canceled, as you know, and was rescheduled. Currently has been rescheduled. At least they have reserved the memorial building for May 23rd at 10 o'clock. I haven't received anything formal from the Air Board. I have still not talked to them to find out what the reason was that was canceled. It was done last minute. Many people I know had made changes in their plans in order to attend, and then that didn't happen. But we're still trying to find out what happened and try to make sure that it doesn't happen again that way.
I can find out. I can get that in the morning for you.
Okay. That's all.
Okay. Councilmember Parker?
I only had one comment, and it was for my colleagues. I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but the League of California Cities' latest Western City edition for May. I was asked a question back in January while attending the new council mayor meeting in Sacramento. How does the city of Newman celebrate cultural diversity? Part of my response was the fact that I had such a tremendous amount of support back in November, and I alluded to the fact that Newman was made up of a large contingent of Portuguese and Hispanic Americans here. And I just wanted to inlay with that the fact that the people here tend to get to know each other on a personable level. Being an African American and representing maybe 1% or less than that in the total population, it lets you know that people are genuine here. And there was a comment made to me by, I had the opportunity to meet former Councilman Bush Rose, and along the lines, he made a comment to me that people are just generally good people here, and they're not always being judgmental by somebody's ethnic background. And I just wanted to state that publicly, that's not always the case. People are going to have prejudice, people are going to have bias, but the overall genuine feeling in this town, in this community in which I serve, and I feel proud to be a part of, is that people are just genuine, good, down-to-earth people. And I thought that just should be stated, and particularly since they have my picture posted in that magazine.
I was going to bring that up. Your picture's in the magazine, too. Yeah.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Tom?
I agree with his comments.
I do
It's
too,
a
yeah.
Great city to live in.
It
And
is.
people are fantastic in this city. And that's, I
A
have no
lot
other
of places,
comments.
and this is the best,
Oh, yeah.
no doubt about that. Anything else that you want to comment on? No? Okay. You still thinking about Hawaii? Okay.
No, now I'm thinking about Europe.
Oh, okay. Bob?
Just like to thank the Newman Historical Society for coming out. You know, this is a wonderful group, and you know, in this town of ours, we have a lot of buildings that need to be preserved, and it's people like the Newman Historical Society that's going to protect them. I know we lost some beautiful buildings, and the high school being one of them, and thank God we've got people out there that are watching and protecting these, because once they're torn down, you can never bring them back. So thank you for all your efforts.
John?
I agree with Bob, and thanks for coming out, and I still think it's a good idea to put those equipment on the highway. I mean, we're a historical farm town from way back, and I think we need to keep it that way. I'll help all I can. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing except, well, there's one thing. It didn't get on the agenda, so we can't really do anything about it, but next Wednesday, the SCEDCO is voting on whether to merge with the Workforce Investment Board. And I know we had discussed it before. We had not gotten to a point of voting on whether we actually wanted to do this or not. But I attended a couple of their meetings since then, and everything is just so up in the air that I don't think they really know exactly what they're going to do either. But I just feel that we probably ought to go ahead with it, particularly this grant that they've received to get some professionals in here to, well, for most of it for the west side, particularly our area here, to give us some direction on economic development. I see. Do you want to say something? Go ahead, Paul.
Thursday at 5 to 6 p.m., Dylan Myers, who's the business retention specialist with Skedco, will be speaking to the Newman Chamber, and this is an invitation to all of you who have an interest in this. That'll be the hour before our normal business meeting. But she'll be coming telling us what Skedco is and what they have to offer, and maybe get a better idea if you guys don't have a good idea. I just appreciate to know who's coming, because we may have to move the meeting out of Stevens Borelli if we have too many people.
Where's the meeting?
Usually it's at Stevens Borelli's conference room, but that's pretty limited space, so.
What time?
Thank you.
5.
And she will be there from 5 to 6. She'll be first on their agenda. So anyway, I would like to go ahead and I have to vote next Wednesday on this, and go ahead to vote for the merger. And if it doesn't work out, as I say, they have a lot of unknowns in there. If it doesn't work out, why, we can always withdraw from it. So I think that's what we'll go ahead and do. That's all I have. Anything else? Meeting adjourned.
I move that we adjourn.
Oh, yeah, right.
Second.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Paul?